Okay, welcome back to my Secrets of Role Mangging series for our Masks of Nyarlathotep campaign. Now featuring Fate Core. It wasn't, well, I mean, it was an exciting, fun session. It was. But they didn't really... Well, I can't really even say they didn't get much done, because they did do a lot. They foiled the resurrection of a very evil, dark sorceress queen thing, so they killed, like, hundreds of cultists. They did a lot. But I guess as far as book progression is, it wasn't much. But, alright, so... The labyrinth underneath the Sphinx. I'm not sure if there's anything else for me to really say. Okay, well, they saw the cultists going into the steel, into the pillar, and I just wanted to show them that, to be like, okay, shit is going down tonight. There's no running away. The resurrection's happening tonight. It's final. You know, the cultists are going in. There was an option there for them to be somewhat maybe creative or adventurous, and maybe get some cult robes, basically. And basically, I mean, they hesitated quite a bit, which is why they only got like 3. If they had all gotten robes, even then, I kind of screwed them on that, as I'll talk about, but, they missed Omar Shakti completely. Just never even heard of him. So that's why during the ritual, I was like, some Egyptian guy you've never seen before. I'm not even sure, what is the reference to him? Not much. How do you find this guy? How was I supposed to bring him in? Because Faraz Najir knows of him. I guess he was supposed to mention it, but he didn't. I should have had him name drop it. Because really they should have met Shakti. Because his whole place is, like, staffed by cultists. So, getting robes is difficult. They would have had to basically think about that. They would have had to have thought about it, and be like, okay, how do we get these robes? Because you gotta imagine these cultists are gonna have some sort of get-up. They should know that. Because, like, back in London, from Tufik, I believe, they found, like, his robes. I don't know if it would be... No, I don't think it's the same robes. Well, those would be, like, priest robes. That they wouldn't really buy, that these guys are priests. Because his were, like, black. And the other ones are white. So, yeah, it would be tricky. They would have had to thought about it, but they didn't. They never met Shakti. They never did any of that. So, they were in a bit of a bind. They were kind of just going by the seat of their pants. And that's how the great adventures are done. So... I wasn't... They weren't going to get in through the steel unless they were in line with robes. That would be the only way. So, I knew already, just when they showed up, I was like, they're not getting in. It's not going to happen. Unless, I guess, they drove the vehicle in. Like, they just bowled past the last few guys and just drove it right into it. Then maybe. Then maybe. But yeah, it's only open for a couple minutes. Man, that would have been crazy. That would be very pulpy, wouldn't it? So yeah, they could have reopened it, but they would have had to sacrifice 12 magic points. They would have had to have been able to read hieroglyphics. Then they would need a successful idea roll and a successful Cthulhu Mythos roll. If you do all that, then I'd be like, holy shit, you're amazing. And open it up. It doesn't really provide even that much of a benefit. It honestly doesn't. So, like, it just puts you, like, here. Okay, I don't know if you can see it. You should be able to see this. Like, right there, that's the grand chamber, right in the middle. They ended up going into the secret path over here. The steel will teleport you right here. Not much of a benefit. I guess with the vehicle, if they had driven in like with the vehicle, they would have just like gone straight through the whole line of cultists all the way to the grand chamber. That would have been just nuts. That would have been the greatest thing ever. And I like that they thought about it, but they didn't do it. Oh, man, that would have been crazy. Anyways, so yeah, they're wandering through the labyrinth, and there's a random encounter chart, the only random encounter chart in the whole book. And I was rolling occasionally. They do little set markers on where you should roll. I was fudging it a little bit. Like, I rolled 19 twice, which is the one where the children of the Sphinx show up. I didn't want that to happen twice. That's just too much. Because they handled the first one well enough. And it's like, you know, if you roll every single time you're supposed to, you're gonna be down there for like 3 hours. And they're probably all gonna die. Like 17. Now you roll a 17, whoever is in front, if he fails his spot hidden roll, he falls and takes like 3d6 damage in some pit. And it's just like, okay, I'll go fuck myself. So yeah, you want to be kind of just conservative. The children of Sphinx showing up. That was interesting. I think I said, I was like, you know, they could have been much more dangerous than they were. I could have, like, it says, where is it? 1d6 plus 4 children of the Sphinx attempt to seize one investigator in a branch tunnel or 2 investigators in the main tunnel. As Keeper wishes, captives are taken to the cells or to the Great Chamber of Nyarlathotep for more immediate sacrifice. Oh, if you wanted a picture of what they look like, I can show that too. See, there's like a bird one, and there's cat one, and I just made this video like R-rated. But, okay, so they're actually really, they're not that tough. Because, like, why does it give damage bonuses? Well, I guess they should have damage bonuses. So I guess, yeah, they are kind of tough. I take that back. So, like, the bull. If the bull hits you, he does, like, 4d4 damage. Or 2d4 plus 1d10, depending. Or if the hippo bites you, that's like 4d6 damage. So they can kill you. I mean, they'll kill you. But yeah, you know. They are what they are, and they didn't have guns, so you're in a narrow tunnel, you have fists versus guns. What do you think's gonna win? You know. And then the dimensional shambler showed up, and that was just... I assume he could rip him apart. I didn't really look at his stats. I remember him being dangerous, but I was just like, it's a lot cooler if he's just tearing them apart. I think that's cooler. I like that he summoned him. That was really funny. Because they took sanity loss for it. And that's always good. So yeah. So they arrive at the Great Chamber. Man, like I said, I kind of... Yeah, I would say, if anybody are watching these videos for ideas on running the mask campaign, I would probably not, depending on the situation. You know, if they're following in the big line, if they're pretending to be cultists, I would have the Children of the Sphinx there, just like watching them, you know. Maybe glare at them for a little bit too long or something like that. Make them uneasy. But if they're trying to sneak in like this, like how I had it, I probably wouldn't have them there. Because, like, even myself, I know all the details of what's going on, and I'm a pretty good planner when it comes to this. I'm not sure what I would do in this situation. So... if that's me saying it, then I can't imagine how it was for them. So, yeah, I probably wouldn't have them there. It just gives you more options, and it's going to get them more involved in this great ritual, and they're going to be like, how do we, you know, we're in this crowd with hundreds of cultists. They're up there doing this evil-ass ritual. What the hell do we do, you know? It's not just, well, I guess we got to blow up the whole place. It will probably end up being that anyways, but give them a bit more chance. So yeah, I guess I was glad that Richard decided to step forward and try and be all confident, because that did get him a brief glimpse as to what was going on in this ritual. Just keep reinforcing, like, it kept on reinforcing in the player's mind not to trust anybody, because they trusted Dr. Henry Clive. They thought he was on the level, and they're like, what? He's the head priest here. Yeah, so that was good, and it wasn't just, well, I guess tossing the explosives and we're done. It was a bit more involved than that. I got to show a bit more breadth of this cult, you know, and this is just one cult of many of the same dark god, and so they command great power, and they're throwing 100 victims into this leech pit, and it's just awful, and Mahmoud is there, and what? And, so yeah, it was, I didn't get to the big coup de grace. I did not get to it, unfortunately, because they blew everything up. They could have waited. In all honesty, they could have, even if she was resurrected and she was standing there in human form again, and they blew up everything, I'd still probably say she's done. Because I was like, yeah, she's bad news. Good thing you guys stopped her. She would have been real bad news. She's real powerful. And they were like, man, how much HP did she have? Or would she have had? And I was like, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah. In the book, she has 14 HP. And she doesn't have any, well, she does have armor. So, I guess, okay, here. Crown, necklace, and girdle provide her with 15 hit points of magical protection over her entire body. Thus, with an attack doing 16 hit points of damage, she would take only 1 hit point of damage. So that is pretty damn good. That's really powerful. I won't argue that. But still, you have an entire, you know, underground complex falling on you. You're dead. So yeah, they could have waited to see her resurrect, but it's a good thing they didn't, because as soon as she's resurrected, she calls forth the Black Sphinx. Man, I would have loved it. I would have just, like, read this paragraph. As large as a good-sized hippopotamus, but very... Actually, that seems relatively small compared to what they... Yeah, what is this bullshit? Yeah, that 5-headed monster as large as a hippopotamus. That's what Lovecraft wrote, describing this shit. Then, over in the stat box for its size, it's 350. Keeping in mind an average human is like 10. The children of Sphinx are like 11, average. This is 350. That's not a hippopotamus, man. So yeah, that would have emerged, and it would have just been like it's an aspect of Nyarlathotep, so it's 1d10/1d100, and so it would have just been oh, and as soon as they saw it, they just let out this horrible scream, and they're the only ones screaming, and just yeah. But yeah, it was still exciting. It was explosive, and they accomplished the job. Yeah, like I said, I was happy with. If there's going to be one TPK in this whole campaign, I would have been fine with it being right there. So, yeah, and that's pretty much it for Cairo. There wasn't much else. All they really missed was Shakti, which wouldn't have really gotten them anything. They didn't get the Sword of Akmala. That would have been very tricky for them to get. They would have had to have been, like, 3 of them would have had to have been, like, Frederick Zollers to get that shit, is what I'm saying. Like, it's tough to get this sword. If they did have it, they probably still would have lost it underground under the Sphinx, so it wouldn't have made a difference anyways. But it is a badass sword. They didn't go visit Niti, if you remember that, El Wasta and Unba, you remember all that. The only purpose of going to see them is getting a piece of stone. White stone. A slab of it. It's broken in half. And so they would find 1/2 of this broken stone. And this is a piece of the Eye of Light and Darkness, which is basically the most powerful spell. Not... As far as this campaign is concerned, it's the most powerful spell in the game. I think I've talked about this. I'm pretty sure I did, back when I talked about Needy. Because if they found 1/2, they'd probably be on the lookout then for the other. If they found this one, and they recognized its importance, like they brought it to Kafur or something like that, and they knew it was important, I'd probably have Gulk save it for them, for the next group or something like that. Because that's like a really cool goal for the mass campaign, is you actually recreate the Eye of Light and Darkness at some point during the campaign. That's really cool. Like, you basically, like, you don't just win, but it's like inside your heart you won. But they didn't find that, and they never will, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, that was basically it for Cairo. Cairo is one of the longest chapters. Yeah, I want to say that's about it. Oh, they didn't visit Nigel Wasif, but I don't think they really cared. They're not into that nonsense. Alright then. So then we switched to Fake Core, as I talked about. And we brought in a whole new group. And I mean, it made sense, right? Kensington knows what's going down. He knows about this event happening in on the 31st of March, so he knows it's coming up. He knows the Mountain of Black Wind is in Africa, but he's not sure where. I think he could deduce it's in Kenya, or at least that's the next logical destination anyways. So he hasn't heard from him in a few days. He knows they went down there. Something probably happened, and then, of course, Gulk got into his head again, and so he just signed up some new people, and let's go, let's keep it going. And, okay, so they arrive in Mombasa. They get through customs, no problem. They meet with Golk. And I didn't want Golk to be with them right away. I'm not sure why. I mean, he was there, but I didn't want him to go with to Nairobi. He's going to show up right when they need him, basically. And Ziggy messaged me on Facebook after they were talking to Golk, and he's like, my character doesn't like Neptune Jones because he's like a criminal or whatever. His character didn't like him. So he's going to take him to a gambling den and try and get him drunk so he misses the train. So I'm like, okay. So takes him to the gambling den, and he tries to get him drunk. And I think I talked about this yesterday. Man, I'm getting old. I talked about this yesterday, I swear. I had to. How I messed up the drinking portion as far as Fate Core is concerned. I remember talking about that. So yeah. So he didn't get him as drunk as he should have been drunk because of my somewhat mess up. And it didn't help that he got caught cheating so quickly. And so there were situations in which Neptune Jones would have been like caught in a brawl or something like that and left behind, but I don't think that would have been as interesting. Well, it wouldn't have been as cinematic as what occurred. So I think it all worked out for the best. And Neptune Jones didn't even catch on to the idea that Delawaru set him up on purpose. Because he brought him 3 strong alcoholic drinks and none for himself. Like, okay. And, okay, so they get attacked on the train. Alright, this was a funny thing. Alright, way back. Way back. When Alfred Hemsworth was first introduced, and Charlie Chalk, I ran a little side adventure to introduce all their characters, called The Deadlight. And so those characters encountered a deadlight in Pennsylvania, I think I might have said it. And so the players all vividly remember this deadlight thing. I hope you guys do as well. It was basically just a floating light that sucked out people's souls and stuff. And so on the train then, when the 2 lights appeared, they were like, more fucking deadlights? And they just kept on going under the assumption that they were deadlights. And I was like, I'm like, I never said deadlights. And Ziggy even messaged me, like, today, he's like, so was that deadlight thing like a part of the campaign, or was that like a side thing that you put in there? And I'm like, I never said it was deadlights. They should have realized pretty quickly it was a deadlight because it was a completely different attack pattern. The deadlight originally didn't. The deadlight doesn't burn things. I think it did melt things, but I don't know if they saw that. It was supposed to be able to melt stuff. But anyways, these things weren't deadlights. These were fire vampires. Very interesting. Because, for one, they do not require a sanity loss to see. And this is because I think they're just lights. Like, literally, they're supposed to be just floating lights. One is red, one is blue. The blue one is slightly stronger. Like, it calls them big sparks. Okay? And alright, so they're just big lights that are floating through the air. I can maybe see how it doesn't require sanity loss. I mean, watching somebody get burned alive horribly, that might, but not them themselves. But then I saw this picture, and I'm not sure. Like, the guy right here, is that a fire vampire, or is that a guy on fire? Because he seems kind of ghoulish, right? So I'm not sure, but if they are just lights, but then, like, the picture from, like, Arkham Horror, if you look at the fire vampire, it looks like a guy surrounded by fire. But again, I'm not sure if that's a guy on fire or that's what a fire vampire... I don't know. It doesn't really matter. They're lights, alright? They are just floating lights. Fuck it. And so, yeah, they cannot be harmed by any material weapon. So the best way to combat them is with things that are useful in fighting fires. Water, fire extinguishers, bucket of sands. It says bottles of port and sherry will work in a pinch, but whiskey and brandy only encourage fire vampires. So I was hoping if somebody botched a roll, I was going to give them a big bottle of... I was going to give them like a big bottle of clear liquid. Or no, I could be really a douche and just say, yeah, you see a big bottle of water. And they chuck it and they're like, oh shit, it was vodka. So yeah, I think they handled it pretty well. They did get burned a little bit, and I was generous, because that was basically the first combat encounter, and it was a weird combat encounter, of Fate Core, so I'm easing them into it a little bit. I was nice to them. If it were Call of Cthulhu, they would have been just devoured. Like, literally, it's 2d6 damage, like, every time. Just... But, yeah, so they handled it. I don't know what Ed was doing on the roof. I still don't know. I'll never understand it. But he was. And, but then things went worse. Turns out the only thing more dangerous than fire vampires is the players themselves. Because, man, oh man, they screwed the pooch there. Just say nothing. Frederick Zoll... I know, I bring up Frederick Zoll a lot. Because he is the best person that I know when it comes to conversation. Learn from him. His motto is, an ounce of truth is worth a pound of lies. Meaning, just saying a little bit of truth is better than saying a whole shitload of lies. They did not really understand that, because they went for the shitload of lies and they weren't very good. There's a line in Red Seas Under Red Skies, second book of the Gentleman Bastard series, where Locke is like, he's praying to his thief god, and he's like, give me a line of golden bullshit and the wisdom to know when to stop spinning it. And it's just like, yeah, that's what they really needed, but why did he steal his... I mean, I guess I understand what was going on in his head, sort of, as to why he stole the license, because he wanted a distraction. Because at that point, he had already screwed up, because he had opened his mouth. Alright? So, there were other people with them in the first class compartment. There were passengers. And the conductor was just like, what the hell's going on? And if they had just waited, eventually one of the other people would be like, some lights showed up and start burning the whole place. And everybody would be like, yeah. And the players could have been like, yeah, that's what happened. Like, what? I'm going to have to get one of our engineers in here. Look at the gas or something like that. And gas mains or some bullshit like that, you know? But no, he's like, that guy did it. And then that woman was involved. And Yeah. And then, so then, he wanted to just get everybody's information. Because he's gonna, like, because he's got to file this report, you know. So he's probably gonna, like, write down these names of people that, you know, were witnesses to this thing. And so, instead of just being like, alright, my name's John Smith. I mean, hopefully come up with a better bullshit name than that. But any bullshit name! Who cares? We're staying at the Norfolk. Or if they had known any other hotel. Whatever. Say some bullshit. That's where bullshit comes in handy. But no, he steals the license so then he can make a distraction so that the others can get away without giving false names. Like, that's why he stole the license. So he could be like, you don't even have a license? And it's just like, this is not how you go about things. Because, like, what? It's just like somebody finds your wallet, but one thing is missing. Wow. I wonder. One specific item tucked into it is suddenly gone after this guy finds your wallet. Huh. Okay, so I was like, so the guy, he keeps it going, and so eventually the guy just gets pissed off and punches him. Because it's 1925, that happened. That probably happens nowadays. So the guy Neptune Jones runs. Cherry Fisk is following. Conductor is running. And there are plenty of cops around, so they showed up. And I was like, alright, they're going to be taken in for questioning. If Neptune Jones just fesses that he stole it, it's just going to be basically like a slap on the wrist or something like that. You know, maybe 3 days prison time or something like that. If he hid the thing really well, like up his ass, which is what he did. I don't know if I mentioned that he hid it up his ass. And they don't find it at all. They're just gonna probably be like, you know, we don't know what to believe. We're gonna be keeping an eye out for you, though, sir, Mr. Jones. If we see any more trouble from you, you know, then something's gonna go down. But either way, it wouldn't be a big deal. Because the conductor did throw a punch, so, you know, he's in trouble as well, because he initiated physical conflict. And it would have been okay, though. But no! Neptune Jones has to keep going. He steals the guy's ring of keys. This cop's ring of keys. I wonder if he'll ever need those. That's got to be a tough thing to steal as well, because keys make noise. So he steals that, and I'm just like, that'll probably bite you in the ass, but fine. But then Jerry runs, and I'm like, what the hell? So, yeah, I mean, obviously they're all going to get out fine, but I hope they understand. I think they do how dumb they are. Because the other players are just sitting in their hotel rooms sipping tea, while the other ones are, you know, wanted for just... They're basically... He stole from a police officer. That's in Kenya. Probably not good. And one just has a gunshot wound through his lungs or something. God, that's crazy. That's fate, I guess. So yeah. We are going to go to the board, of course. I got Kenya to talk about. But the only I mean, the switching to Fate Core thing was a decision I wanted to make because I thought it would be cooler. But now I do have to contend with converting a 6th edition Call of Cthulhu campaign to Fate Core, which is just completely different. And for the most part, I'm okay with it. Because really all I care about for the campaign is the story, really. You know, the events and the characters. As far as, like, stats and stuff go, you know, you can kind of figure it out. Like, Children of the Sphinx, they're pretty close to a human. You know, they're pretty close to a normal guy. I can figure that out. You have, like, the powerful spellcasters. I can do that all, like, narratively. I don't have to roll to see if they successfully cast a spell. I can just be, if I want them to cast a spell, they'll do it. You know? You can handle a lot of things just narratively, and I like that. What else is there? There's certain, like, checks. Obviously, there's more skills in Call of Cthulhu than the Fate thing. So if they would need to make, like, a biology roll, boom, it's wrapped up in sciences. You know, and you may be, like, a physicist, but your science skill is high, and we're simplifying things. Some people may break it down all the way. If that's how you want to run it, fine. I don't think it would be terrible if you did. If you broke down sciences into, like, biology, chemistry, physics, geology, stuff like that. I guess geology wouldn't be a science. But you could break down academics as well. I just don't think that is the fun part of Call of Cthulhu. So, I think just let them roll sciences. If they're good at science, done. Luck is an interesting one. I think how I'd handle luck is just roll, 4 fudge dice. If you roll 1 or more, you succeed. If not, you fail. When I first found out about Call of Cthulhu, I was like, oh man, that's cool. There's a luck roll and every character is different. That's really interesting. But then it's like, what the hell kind of sense does that make? Like, that just seems like some person is just so much... I don't really believe in luck as a personal philosophy, so it doesn't really make much sense to me that one person is just luckier than another. Like, but I digress. Idea rolls, another one. I still haven't really thought about how to do idea rolls. I might just, again, go to 4 fudge dice. If you roll 1 or higher, you succeed. Not much really else I gotta work. I mean, like, there aren't in Masks of Nyarlathotep, there aren't many, like, mythos creatures that they'll encounter. Like, there's the aspects of Nyarlathotep, which they'll rarely encounter, and those are the big daddies, and that's all narrative anyway. You're done, basically. But really, it's mostly humanoids. Like, it's mostly cultists and stuff like that. Occasionally, a cultist might summon a mythos creature, and so then, again, doing it narratively, it's a lot nicer. But then it's like, then it's entirely within, basically, me, for the most part, if I want to kill a player or not. It goes back to kind of the Deadlight thing, where it was entirely within my control when a player dies. I mean, there's not anything terrible about that. It's just, when you specifically decide, I'm going to kill this guy off right here, you might get the feeling that you're a bit of a dick. Now, I'm probably going to rely on, are they doing something stupid? They are? Well, then they're going to die. I think that's a good method. If you're really smart about things, you probably won't die. Just like real life. But yeah, I think that about wraps up that before we go to the board. But yeah, I'm not too daunted by running masks in Fate. Just because of how freeform Fate is and it's narrative based. If I was trying to switch this over to like D&D, although I think they may have done a D20 version of this, but you get what I'm saying. You know, converting this over to Fate, as different as it is remarkably easy, I think. But alright, let's go over to the board and we will talk about Kenya. Alright, and here's the board for Kenya. I wrote in green this time, so you can't see anything. I'm not sure what I was thinking. So there's really little point in me standing in front of this thing, but I will anyways for tradition's sake. So yeah, here's it. This is pretty much all of Kenya, for the most part. I didn't write anything for Mountain of the Black Wind because I got lazy tonight, and I don't think they'll get there anyways. But yeah, Kenya is surprisingly short of a chapter. Like, literally, they get to Nairobi, they do some talking, do a little investigating, and then they go to the Mountain of the Black Wind. Pretty much all action happens at the Mountain of the Black Wind, for the most part. So, yeah, it's a short chapter. But an important one. Alright, so, first off is Tandoor Singh. This guy is not good. He's basically the main antagonist in Nairobi. He is not... He's not really a member of the Cult of the Bloody Tongue. He worships a different aspect of Nyarlathotep, but he is an important... Like, he realizes it doesn't really matter, because they all serve the same one. But still, certain people are accustomed to worshipping their specific aspect, even though they all know... Like, nobody just worships Nyarlathotep. You know, they worship a form. So, he worships the form of the small crawler, which really has no presence in the book. And but he is important to Mweru, the head priestess of the Bloody Tongue, and because he is the one who kind of handled the whole cover-up of the Carlisle massacre. So he's well trusted here, and he's a good agent. He kind of looks over all foreign activity going on in Kenya. Or in Nairobi, at the very least. And so, the fire vampire attack was done by him. He can summon fire vampires at will, and so he's the one that sent them at the train. So, in the book, okay, this entire book goes by the assumption that you start with the same characters that you end with, and you play through the whole thing with the same set of characters. I don't think that's ever happened, but it goes by that assumption. So it doesn't say, if you are starting with new characters, do this. You know, it just gives the information. So Tandoor Singh in the book here in the campaign knows about the investigators. He's had word that they're coming, and he wants to stop them. Okay, so he sends the fire vampires to try and kill them. Now, obviously, that doesn't make much sense since these are completely new people coming from New York, just fresh off the boat. So, I had to get a little creative and involve Gulk. Because Gulk knows everything. He's Nyarlathotep. And so he knows that everybody out, they're all dead. Kensington is going to find new people, so he got a hold of Kensington again and told him, you know, get them to Kenya. And then he contacted Mweru, who contacted Tandoor, and he's like, these individuals are going to come to Mombasa by boat. You're going to see them get off. Here's mental images of them if you need them, and here are their names, and you need to stop them. Why would he say that? To keep things interesting. That's why I do it. You know, it's not really a big mystery. So, you know, ostentatiously, of course, Gulk is there to help him out. give him assistance. But, you know, he's also working, you know, he's just got hands in every pot. That's what he does. So he's making things interesting. So yeah, Tandoor Singh is going to kill them. Or he's going to try. He, like, as long as they're in Nairobi, as long as they're not at the Mountain of the Black Wind, he wants them dead. Like, that is his territory. And it is his job now, from Maweru, to kill them, to stop them from getting to the mountain. So they're going to have to contend with this guy. They're probably going to find out eventually that it's Tandoor Singh behind all this shit. And so there may be like a Juju House moment or something like that. I don't know, but they're gonna have to do something. Because once they're out of his hands, then he has to go to Maweru and be like, I messed up. Help me. And so, yeah, they're kind of at a disadvantage because they know that they are coming. They know that they're in Nairobi. They're on their way. They're up to some opposition. So, the other reference that Gold gave was to the Nairobi Star. This is the main newspaper there. It's run by a woman in her 40s named Natalie Smith Forbes. And it does contain back issues from 1919 talking about the Carlisle expedition. Files show that the Carlisle expedition dealt with a man named Dr. Horace Starrett and Mr. Neville German, and also that the report of the massacre, the Carlisle massacre, came from a guy named Sam Mariga. And Smith Forbes herself will mention Tandoor, I think it was Huston. Oh no, Aubrey. Aubrey talked to Tandoor a bunch. And so she's going to name drop that. She'll also name drop Roger Corridon and Captain Montgomery. So there's going to be just a bunch of references here. Well, okay, if they go in by day, if they check out the Nairobi Star by day, they'll just have this conversation. That's it. If they go in by evening, when it gets darker, for whatever reason, Tandoor Singh will send in fire vampires to try and kill them again and burn down everything. And even if not kill them, try to get them at the scene of this arsonry to try and get, so the police will be like, okay, you were on the train that started fire. Now you were at the Nairobi Star that started on fire. I think you guys are up to something. You know, that would be another outcome that would be okay for him. At some point, though, they will encounter this man named Colonel Endicott, who is basically a very loudmouthed big game hunter that owns a hunting lodge outside of Nairobi. And he needs some assistance with a problem. This is basically a red herring. It's a side adventure, which I have detailed right here. And all I've written down here under this section is go fuck yourself, the side adventure. Because that is all it is. It does not give any info or any assistance whatsoever to the main quest that they're on. All it is let's die. Like, literally, they go out to this hunting lodge because tourists are randomly dying or something like that. And there's this, like, night platform for just observing or shooting animals from an elevated position. And so if they stay the night there, 10, like, small ghouls creep up and try and slaughter them all. And that's it. And if they kill, like, those 10, 10 more come. And then if they kill 20 of them, they regroup and return in mass. Like, so I don't even know how many there are that you have to kill. I would say like 50. And the best way to describe these is if you saw Mummy Returns, when they're in the jungles and they had those little pygmies. Picture that. Just picture those little pygmy things. Picture like 50 of them trying to just slaughter you. And Yeah, each one of them does like 1d4 damage. But you get like 50 of them, you're just ripped apart. And the only reward that you get, literally the only reward, is 1d6 sanity points. But just seeing one of these little pygmies can cost you 1d6 sanity points. So it's just like, go fuck yourself. That's it. I'm not even sure if I want to lead them on this side adventure at all, because it's so stupid. But I imagine it'll be so hilarious for me that I might just do it. I'm not sure yet. They would have to realize that this is not anything to do with Moeru and the mountain at all. It's so stupid. But, anyways. There's also Nails Nelson. What was his name? Bertram Nails Nelson. He's at the bar. He's just basically a big drunk. And all he really knows is the location of Jack Brady. Like, he'll give this specific address and location in Shanghai, which is useful. If they do get that info out of him and they put it in their notes, you know, I would say that one of them contacts Kensington and tells them. And so, in the future, they know that for good. That's basically it, though. He doesn't know how to get to the Mountain of the Black Wind. Johnstone Kenyatta. This is a guy, he's mentioned in the notes of Jackson Elias, and he works at the Kikuyu Central Association, a black African organization devoted to gaining black representation in the colonial government. This dude, this is really interesting. This is an actual guy. You can look him up. He lived. Johnstone is like the name that he published like a book under in, you know, to go... Because his real name is like Yomo or something like that. He's a real dude. He's the first president of Kenya. Like, he's heralded as like the founding father of modern Kenya. Like he's on their currency. And so it's cool that they put him in here, because he did work for the Kikuyu Central Association during this time period. Like, in 1925. And it's cool, he's like, just like, here's a real historical figure, boom, you can talk to him before he's really famous. He doesn't play a very important part, but he's there, it's just cool. It's kind of like, just like, oh, you're doing an adventure, and there's George Washington when he was like 24. Actually, he may have been a general at that point, I don't know. I'm not a history buff. Anyways... Yeah, so all he really is there for is he listens to their story, and then he directs them to Okomu and Old Burdari. And these guys live in this little hut, and Okomu is this just asshole dude that keeps pestering them and demanding information, and because they want to talk to Old Bundari. He's important. But this guy's like, he's basically like... Was his name like Seraph from the Matrix movies? Where he's like, he had to fight Neo before he could see the Oracle for some reason? I don't know. But he's basically like that, but without the fighting. And so, he does know of Moeru, he does know a bunch of information, and he does know the location of the Mountain of Black Wind, so he may be the one that tells him how to get there. Or draw him a map or something. But, really, he... just lets them see hopefully lets them see Old Bundari. This guy's a great tribal shaman. He's in flux with many realities. And I like that I wrote that just like it was an aspect. Because that's probably what I'm going to put as one of his aspects. If asked. He's in flux with many realities. So basically that means, like, he's contacted other worlds, okay? And so he's, like, stuck in between them from time to time. So, he'll just be like sitting there, like meditating, but he won't actually be in this reality at the time. So they have to sit there for like 10 hours. Their characters have to sit there for 10 hours, not saying a word, not moving. And that is the only way they will get to talk to this guy. And so if they sit there perfectly still, not talking, for 10 hours, or something like that, he will finally warp into this reality mentally. And he'll open his eyes and he'll look at them and he'll say some like prophetic shit about them. And then he will give them gifts. Yeah, loot. He'll give them loot. I swear to you. So one of them is a fly whisk. So it's like a fly swatter. Or something. I guess it's a fly swatter. But it's magical. All he's going to say about it is that it can find and resist evil. What it actually does is it adds 6 magic points to the holder's ability to defend against magic. Which isn't bad. I don't know, it resists evil. I think they're going to blow it out of proportion. You cannot stop me! But it can also be used to find hidden evil. So it adds 25% chance. In Fate Core, I'd add like 2 points. I basically let them get free invocations on it if they're searching for anything related to the mythos. So that's kind of useful. That's pretty good. The other gift that he gives is a chameleon in a cage. It's a warty gray-brown chameleon named Who Is Not What She Seems. But you can call her Who for short. Take her with you and feed her well and daily with flies. She will protect you once, but not against magic. You need but open her cage and free her. So, all bugs of all type, completely avoid this chameleon's vicinity. So they have to go out and catch bugs to feed her. And they better feed her. So, if they get into a fight with cultists, and they open the cage, she transforms into a size 64 chameleon. Keeping in mind that an average human is 10 or 11. So, that's big. That's pretty damn big. I'm trying to see if I have a good reference. Okay, so like a panther would be like size 18, it says. There's not really many good examples. What was the Chakota? Maybe that's a good... Or a Byakhee? Does it say a Byakhee here? That's not really a good reference, is it? A Servitor of the Outer God is in the 20s. A Shantak is in the 40s. It's bigger than a Shantak, so we're talking a pretty freaking big chameleon. And it tries to eat up all aggressors as if they were flies. And then once it's done, she disappears. If they don't feed her, and she's let out, she'll eat all the cultists, and then she'll try and eat all the investigators. Fucking feed the chameleon, damn it. She'll only eat 3 investigators before she disappears, but still, I get to pick then who's he getting eaten. But yeah, that's the 2 gifts that he gives them. Not game changing or anything like that. They could bypass Old Bandari, but there are only a couple people that know the location of the Mountain of the Black Wind. One is Sam Mariga, who they'll probably talk to. The other is Okomu. So they're probably going to want to talk to one of them. And then they're pretty much ready to go to the Mountain of the Black Wind. And I wonder, how long does it say it takes to get there? I don't know if it really says. There's a map, right? There's a map. It's in miles, I'm pretty sure. This is a map of Nairobi. I need a map of Kenya. Here it is. So from Nairobi, Mountain of the Black Wind Yeah, that's at least 50 miles. 60 miles, maybe. So, it's a few days hike to get to the Mountain of Black Wind, I would say. So, it's like March 17th. No, it's March 18th now. They're not going to head out immediately. But I'd say, you know, bare minimum they get there to the Mountain of Black Wind is like March, what, 24th maybe? I doubt that. I'm gonna try to make it so they have to kind of scramble to get there by the 31st. For whatever reason, they get sidetracked because it's more interesting that way. If they just get there beforehand and like, oh, there's Hypatia Master, she's pregnant, let's kill her. I mean, that's still a little bit difficult, but it's not as exciting as being there for this big ritual. But then, yeah, like that's it. They're there, you know, and Stopping Maweru is important, but it's not essential. Because like I said way back, like there are certain characters that can replace others. So if they kill Maweru, probably Aubrey would come in. No, not Aubrey. Gavigan. Gavigan would come in. But if they kill the spawn of Nyarlathotep, yeah, I think they need this. I think the spawn has to survive in order to open the gate. Yeah. Because the spawn has to perform the gate opening ceremony. So yeah, I guess if they kill the spawn, they win. Basically, they beat the campaign. I think I'd still play out the rest of the campaign. Because Nyarlathotep would be like, oh yeah, fuck it, I have another kid, here you go. But, as far as it's written, I think they win. Where does it say trying to kill her? I don't know. But yeah. So, I didn't go into the detail about the Mountain of the Black Wind and the final ritual and all that stuff yet. They won't get there in the next session. It just won't happen. If it seems like they will, I'll try to get them to this game lodge instead. But yeah. Like I said, Kenya is not a long chapter. So, after that, I'm not sure where they would go. I have to kind of lead them. I think Kensington will be like, I found this new lead in Australia. Because the Australia chapter wasn't originally in Masks. Or it was kind of an addition. I don't know, it was different. Anyways, I'm getting off topic, so I think I'm going to end this now. You guys get a good idea of what Kenya is like, so we'll see how it goes, especially with Fate Core. It's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. So, my name is Mang. This has been Secrets of Role Manging for Masks of Nyarlathotep. I'll see you fine folks in 2 weeks.